There we go.
Okay. Voila. Okay.
So if you want to go ahead and start the Zoom, I'm just gonna go on to YouTube and just check and see if I can see this.
Mr. Angel, I asked Tim to help me, since I haven't met most of you.
Uh-huh,
If you make a motion, if you would tell me your name.
okay, I understand.
I've got your nameplates
Okay.
up here, but sometimes it's hard
That's
to see
okay, no problem.
both while you're speaking, so. That way I'll get it recorded correctly.
Okay. We are getting ready to go into downtown Stokesdale. Don't blink, because if you blink, you may.
Stays cold. The hell we can't anymore. Right? Find out. I got to come in January. Right? They got it. Oh, your fridge remember? Yeah. And it's just, I think it's still under warranty. Once I do, right, Wednesday. That's what they told me.
Say here,
You have the cost.
kind of see what's on.
Claim it under warranty.
Oh, I have good Sim. It's a good company. I use them on my motorcycle. I don't buy now confirming, but it's because I used to use some other company. They got a great deal.
I got Lifetime. Which is
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
And I have roadside assistance till
Deal.
2027.
Thank you,
You're
Jim, very
welcome.
much.
Y'all have a good night.
You leaving
too.
us?
Have a good trip.
We're going up to Minnesota camping.
Oh, wow, that'll be exciting.
So we've gotta go do our equipment shakedown
Oh, yeah.
tonight and.
That ought to be fun, I'll
Don't
enjoy
worry,
that.
I'll have everything I got's in a bag. It's right here. That's all we can take. We're only allowed to take that.
Yep,
Oh, that's good. Sorry, that works out.
Scott, you got it?
Well, there's 16 of us going total. I think it's like 8 adults, 8 kids.
Okay,
So we're going to canoe about 65
Yeah.
miles and then camp at night.
I was assistant scoutmaster and I look back on some of the things I did and took those kids and I'm thinking, what was I thinking?
No, I think they got all.
Most of these are older.
Yeah.
Most of them, you gotta be 14 anyway. to
Yeah,
do these
right.
trips, these
They got 'em.
adventure trips.
Right.
So
They just got them all on one
we're
side.
going up northern tier and it'll be fun, yeah.
I was,
Got some
I was-
bonus
Let Tim
seats
stand.
in Florida right now.
I was with Hatters Yachts for years, so I took them all down to Newbern,
Took it off today.
took a 70 motor yacht
And
and
of
put them
course-
all on it. Took them towards Moorhead. I look back on that experience thinking, what was I thinking?
According to the
They were
city,
all over that boat. I was hanging off the handrails and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, I love
Yeah,
the way it reads
that's,
right now.
It can be fun.
Yeah. How long you gonna be there?
We're leaving on the 9th, come back on the 17th.
Okay, good long stint, so, yeah.
Some of them may make you stay at
Don't
night
leave.
to recoup and all
They
that.
call the
Okay.
police,
It's good before you leave. But
write your ticket.
a lot of people come
Okay.
in off the water and then they try to
Right.
drive home.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
tough.
We're flying, I was
Did
telling
you
her,
leave?
I'm hoping,
Right?
we
Because
booked
we're full.
16 people on one flight.
Mhm.
I'm praying that American Airlines stuff doesn't get us.
If they call the
Because,
police,
some of the guys are going to
and then ask
Key
you to
West
leave, you
on
say,
that
okay, I'm
Monday.
leaving.
Okay,
Flying in on Saturday,
Uh-huh.
going
What'd you
to
call me
Key
for?
West on Monday for another trip down there.
wow.
And,
Yeah, the whole thing is,
Well, good luck, be safe.
I'll let
Bonkers.
like I have to, they.
I had a good one last night.
Yeah. Let's say that, Mr.
Take care,
Jones.
guys.
Yep,
Take
take
it
care.
It's,
Evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
How are you?
hello. Turn the phone off. I hate this thing.
Yeah, let me run this thing on the silent mode.
Yeah.
Tim, you get anything done today?
Some.
Some.
All right, y'all got ID who are you?
Yep. Let's switch around.
Yeah, I even took all the specs down.
Oh, okay.
This way I didn't have to keep running in and out.
You know what I like about Good Sam is, because I had some other companies in the past,
Yeah,
and they would only tow you max of 100 miles, any other company. And the problem is, when if I took a motorcycle trip, I could be in the middle of Texas, 100 miles, it wouldn't take me any place.
Okay,
Call Mr. Green.
mine reads different.
Contact.
Mine is now, no, but mine is
Yeah.
unlimited.
Hold them, huh?
I have the Platinum Plus.
That's what I have,
Yeah,
right.
I got the Platinum Plus now.
And to me, it's a good deal. I mean, hopefully you don't really need it, but if you need
Yeah.
it, because when you need it, you need it.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, the car's not gonna break down in my garage, and I'm gonna, like, go take the other car.
Yeah,
It's gonna break down on the highway someplace. So, it's like anything else, it's insurance. Crazy.
oh, look at that, we got new signs
Hey,
up.
Mr. Green,
Oh, yeah.
there's a planning board meeting going on tonight. Are you gonna make it?
So I didn't realize, Joe Biden, he was in Raleigh tonight.
You got
He's out
5,
there,
15
he's out there on
minutes.
a
Shall I
push to
send a
get
card
everybody to
for
get
you?
vaccinated now. Because now, they said his goal was 70% of the people by July 4th.
Yeah,
They're not gonna reach it. They're at 62% or something, whatever the number is, I don't know.
Hey,
So,
you got time?
so I said to my wife, I said, so now is he gonna tell everybody you can't celebrate, you're gonna wait till Labor Day?
10-4.
I can't get it.
I know, right,
We all ready, Ms. Martin?
Fat.
We
I have hypertension,
I think so.
Right.
Zoom is already,
I have diabetes, right?
YouTube is already activated.
part of my lung is missing.
Going there, it's already-
Yeah, well, you got a legitimate
Green is on his.
reason,
Yeah,
And my philosophy is simple.
Turn the Zoom on.
You can't,
Whenever you're ready.
it's everybody's choice. Whatever they wanna do, they do, okay?
it's that I don't wanna try an experimental drug.
Yeah, well, he was saying today, he says, well, once they make it, it becomes finally approved,
Yeah.
then everybody's gonna run to get it. I think we've hit the plateau.
Yeah,
I
right.
think the people, because if you wanna get a vaccine, it's available any place with no wait. I was today was at Lowe's in Mayodan, and the Red Cross was out there, had a big van out there with a big sign, and there were 2 nurses standing out front. And I said, good morning. I said, don't look too busy. She says, yeah, I've had like 3 people come in. And it's so, there's traffic coming and going all the time, so it's available. If you want it, you can get it.
VA called me twice,
Right.
right? The second time I says, if you look at my records, I can't get it.
Right.
She goes, oh,
Do you take a flu shot every year?
I normally do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I've been taking a flu shot for years because about 10 years ago, maybe 15, I got the flu and I ended up in the hospital. And let me tell you, and after that, I said, you know what, I ain't dealing with this again.
Yeah.
Now, the doctor said, because I said to him, would the shot have helped? He says, it helps your odds. That's what he
Yeah.
said to me. He says, is it gonna guarantee? He says, there's no guarantees in life,
I got, in 2019, got the bacterial pneumonia,
Right.
the blessing in disguise, because that's how they found the tumor.
Oh, wow. Well, that's what happened with me with the truck accident. I had a truck accident. I had 2 surgeries after that. They found a growth in my brain, okay, a tumor, and a growth on the side of my cheek, on the inside. And the doctor said to me, you should thank God you had that accident. I said, I got killed. He says, well, the good thing is, he says, we found these other things. I took him, it was fine.
Yeah.
He said, because if we didn't see this, he says, where the symptoms show up when it's on the brain like that, near the pituitary gland, first thing that happens is your eyesight starts to go. He says, it could disappear in a matter of months. He says, you could like all of a sudden say, and 2 months later you could be blind.
Yeah.
He says, and at that point, it's too late to do the surgery. It doesn't have any reversal. So he says, let's just have it done. So that was funny when he said to me, he says, you should say an extra prayer and thank him for letting you cause you that accident.
Well, that's like, it was right after Trump signed the executive order.
Right.
where
Oh,
we
with the
could-
VA.
For the, we
Right.
could use civilian hospitals. I went to the VA. Right. It was Saturday morning, right, because they're open on Saturday morning for a walk-in.
Right.
Right. And there's a few other things that are open, but they're only open till 12. I came in, they took an x-ray, right, and had me come back to the walk-in clinic, right. I walked in there, I just get ready to sit down, and the doctor comes out, says to the nurse, give him a nebulizer. Okay, so I went in the room, they gave me a nebulizer, right. Then the doctor comes back in, and he says, go across the street to Novant, through the emergency room. Your records are already over there.
So they were like,
You gonna sit over there?
all over it.
I said, okay. I went over there, that's when I found out I had bacterial pneumonia.
Wow.
Right? They cleared up the bacterial pneumonia, it took them 10 days. Right? And she comes in and she tells me all this good news and everything. And she says, but I got some bad news. You got a 2-centimeter growth on your upper left lobe. Okay. Have the VA follow up on it. I says, okay. I have an appointment with my doctor over there in 6 weeks. I'll check in with him. So 6 weeks I went in, I saw my doctor and I told him, right, but he pulled it up on my records. Right? He says, good
Bass,
after
all right.
I get a CT
All right,
scan.
Mr. Bass,
This is just a nausea.
Come back.
that, you read my mind.
He says, it's growing.
Okay. Here to see it. Zoom in on it.
We're gonna set you up for practice.
The way my eyes are going, it needs to be big as that wall back there.
They said, you have 3 choices. We can go into your back with a needle. And, that will find anything. Can wait to see if it grows any. I says, it's already grown.
Yeah, why push the luck
He
here?
says, and it's small enough where we can go in through your side and take it out. I said, do it.
Yeah.
So on 9/11, they took it out. A hell of a day to take it out.
Yeah. So you, under the VA program, with that program, you can go to any doctor then?
Yeah.
That's a good, that should have been in place a long time, because I remember my dad used to go to the VA. What a fiasco, up north, you know, up in New York and that, we used to take them all the time, and it was like, oh, it's just like, it was like pulling teeth dealing with these people. And at that time, some of these people, it's like, you know, I remember having a conversation with the doctor who was going through, and I said to the guy, you ever graduate medical school? My father like kicks me under the table, and after he says, why the hell would you say that? I said, did you hear the guy, the way he was speaking? I said, I asked him some very simple questions, you know, about what's the prognosis. And he started talking to me like, spoken some scientific level.
Yeah.
Just explain it.
I never had any trouble at Northport.
Yeah, well, he had some issues with some people there.
Any issue there.
Yeah, well, he,
One big reason. My wife's cousin,
oh, he had a connection.
he ran the hospital there.
Well, yeah, that helps. Yeah, I'm curious about something.
Yeah.
They're clearing that land out already, right?
Yeah.
They're already, I see them working in there.
And they have, this is only part of the whole subdivision.
I realize it's a whole nother section on the other side. What's that?
This is all part of it. This is all part of it. There's 90 some odd
Right.
homes or something, you know.
I gotta find out what's going on with real estate. My neighbor just put his house on, we bought our house less than 4 years in August, and we paid $300,000. My neighbor just put his house on the market, okay? It's about 300 square feet bigger than mine, same size property, $345,000. So I said to him, you really think you're gonna sell this house? He said, the real estate guy came in, looked at the house and said, that's what the house is worth. The real estate's gone that crazy in the last 3-4 years.
Well,
I told my wife, if I could get $600,000, I'll sell a house, go move, buy a smaller house and a farm somewhere.
you know what I'm gonna, you know
Like
what I'm
crazy.
You know what I think I'm gonna do? Tell my son to get out of my house in Wake. They just put another big shopping center in there right near it. Right? Paid $561 for it, and from what I hear, it's worth over $1 million right now. So,
It's, I
I'm
don't know how
gonna-
anybody affords a house anymore.
hello? Get out of my house. He has to make his divorce farm.
Yeah.
Get out of my house. I'm selling it now.
Recording in progress.
recorded.
Tom, can you hear us?
Just that I can't hear you.
Can hear you.
We can hear you too.
Oh boy.
I never realized TV makes people look that much fatter.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going off screen now. Thanks.
Mr. Bess, would you tilt Mr. Medlin around this way just a weedy bit?
Good idea.
In case the board needs to speak with him.
Tilt you around just a little.
Yeah, it's all
It's on a pivot.
on a pivot there.
You could pull it out a little bit, actually, too, I think. That's good. I can see it. Can you see? I can see it.
Is that good?
Yep,
Okay.
that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Of course, the problem is, I gotta close the blind. It's a reflection in the window.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's okay. I'm gonna close the blind because that reflection.
That did it.
Oh, yeah.
When I brought my motorhome over to Cummings, it's owned in Cummings, that place is 3 times bigger. They have RVs in there, Class A's. The fire trucks that were in there for service. The Cummings diesels.
Right.
Right, and there was some 18-wheelers in there. Well, oh, did you see the commercial television for Tractor Supply?
I've seen a couple.
It's a patriotic commercial in it, but they don't give a military discount. This one can't, this one not working. Discount. Military discount. Get both of them tonight.
Folks, it's 7 p.m. We have a board member that says he's on the way. I'm gonna give him just a few 4 minutes to get here.
PC broken. Boundary line.
PVC, so PVC's coming around the front.
But then down here, the PVC broken.
Right, and then it cuts over to here.
Yeah.
See?
Into here.
This is the street. Looks like a street though.
Mr. Southern, you wanna come sit in for Mr. Green? Something must have happened, he's not getting here.
I heard the door there.
Well, there he is.
There he is.
Fucking Sprite.
Saved by the bell.
Evening, sir. Just give me that. Thank you. I got a copy here. I just gave him one I got.
20 more, you want?
No, I printed mine out here, but. Okay, thank you.
Board member with the packet.
Okay, folks, it's 7:06 PM. We'll come to order, please. If y'all would, please stand, face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. And I'd like to take a moment to welcome Ms. Dale Martin, our interim town clerk. I think this is the first planning board meeting that she's attended, and she's going to be handling the clerking duties tonight. Well, glad to have her here. Let's see. Review and adopt agenda. We have one item on the agenda. If I could get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
I'll second it.
We'll vote. Mr. Nadell.
Aye.
Mr. Hamel.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Mr. Angel.
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Has everybody been able to review the May 27th, 2021 minutes. Everybody have a copy?
Yep.
Any questions?
Mr. Jones, there is a correction to Mr. Hummel's name on the back page. I don't have page numbers on here, but we have made that correction.
Okay, where was that at, ma'am?
The last page, pages are not numbered, so.
Okay, I see where it looks like it was penciled in there.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve it without reading.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Mark Nadell.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll vote. Mr. Nadell?
Aye.
Mr. Hamel?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Angel?
Aye.
And I am as well. That gets us to our case. This will be major subdivision case number 21-05 STPL-04404, Coldwater Terrace, Phase 1. Mr. Bass, do you have a staff report for us?
Yes, sir. This property is located at the Forsyth County line on Coldwater Road, approximately 1,240 feet north of Highway 158, Guilford County Tax Parcel 229722. The overall subdivision shows 56 single-family lots, common area, and dedication of new public street. The Stokesdale portion of the subdivision includes approximately 9 acres of common area and new street right-of-way. The zoning is RS40. Engineer is Kim Lilly, representing RLS Surveying. Staff recommends conditional approval, and this recommendation is based on the technical review, Guilford County Technical Review Committee recommendation that recommends that the subdivision should be conditionally approved, subject to the comments that was contained in the letter that was attached to your report. And this letter was presented to the applicant with regards to a number of issues that the TRC felt would be appropriate to, was at a stage where it can give conditional approval. A lot of it's dealt with labeling issues in that matter. But of course, any review of this would be based contingent on Forsyth County granting, approving the subdivision within the Forsyth County. Only common area and some right-of-way is located within Stokesdale. And there is a portion of Lot 28 that will need the town's approval as well. That's in a future phase, but it's not in the Phase 1 subdivision.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, after we vote on this, it would be basically it'd be a recommendation to the town council, and then the town council will vote to approve, or do we have final approval?
You have final approval on here. If you do grant a conditional approval, what that said, that allows it to continue to be reviewed by the staff based on the conditions. If you do grant approval, then that's final approval.
Okay.
Any appeal will go before the town council.
Mr. Bass, I'm not sure that we get the planning board gets too involved with the town's water system, but this is the first time the town of Stokesdale has extended the town's water system across the county line. And in reading the comments from the Technical Review Committee, I don't see any comments from the Stokesdale Fire Department. Surely to goodness they know about this. And I don't know if we need to be asking any questions about who's going to provide the firefighting in this subdivision, with the access in Guilford County and Stokesdale and the lots lying in Forsyth County.
Certainly.
And so certainly something that the fire folks have talked about this and everything's been settled. Are you satisfied that there's no snafu here?
Now, the fire marshal did make comment on fire hydrant location. That was the Guilford County Fire Marshal. I believe they do consult with Stokesdale in some of the fire code requirements, because these are things that was required by the fire code. With regards to the water system, that's a policy decision that the town council made. They would have to have an agreement with this town of Stokesdale to extend water to that subdivision, at least beyond the Stokesdale County line. I mean, the Stokesdale boundary.
Just thought it worth mentioning since we were breaking new ground with this particular subdivision there.
Yeah, they would have to have either a valid agreement or they have to comply with. It's mostly common areas, so it's likely not to have any water and sewer for those particular lots. But to extend it beyond into the subdivision, that would be an agreement between Stokesdale and Forsyth.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Bass?
Yeah, I have a question. It's Mark Nadell. Somewhere I thought I had heard there was discussion previous when we talked about this case with working out that water situation between both counties. I'm curious now if that was ever addressed. Mr. Jones, do you know if that was I'm not sure. I remember there was discussion about that, and I don't know where that stood. But I thought there was some confusion as to.
When this started, Mayor John Flint provided a letter to Forsyth County that they utilized to approve the rezoning, and the town council, if I recall, subsequently voted to support his opinion and provide water to this subdivision at the same rate inside the town of Stokesdale. Okay. I don't think there's been any other discussion or vote concerning this, but again, it's not exactly our territory as a planning board, but
right. Again,
I just, out of an abundance of caution, I wanted to make sure that we weren't falling through the cracks here, and that the fire department wasn't going to be surprised that this had occurred.
Makes sense.
And they do need to verify the source of water and sewer for the subdivision as well, and that's part of the condition.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Medlin, may I ask Mr.
Certainly.
Bass? Thank you. Mr. Bass, just for the record, you mentioned that the technical review committee's recommendations were attached. I want to make sure that what I have is what's in the record. So I have items 1 through 8, 1 being add deed restriction, 2, provide lot density calculation on the plat, 3, 4, 5, 8. Down below 8 says environmental health comments from John Nykamp. And then below that's fire marshal, number 1, provide fire hydrant locations. And below that is NCDOT comments. It says no comment.
Correct.
Does that include all of the technical review?
The part that is, it's a letter dated June 2nd. The technical review comments include the planning comments on page 1, the watershed comments that begins on page 1 and enumerates those 8 conditions that you identified, the environmental health, fire marshal, and NCDOT. So you did not include the planning comments. So I don't know if you're missing page 1.
Yeah, I think I am. That's why I was asking. So I just want to make sure that that is what's in the record for any motion that's made.
No, that's what I have. I guess I can need to verify that that's this. Your package contained this page as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, does the applicant have anything to add?
My name is Paul Holsom in Coldwater Development. I have nothing to add, but I'd like to be available for any questions. Tim Lilly, our surveyor, is here as well.
Okay, is anyone present or online that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bruce Angel. I have a question. Mr. Bass, on the GIS website, it shows that there are multiple zonings for this piece of property. Could you provide some clarity there? Because I'm thinking back to the Happy Hill discussion we had before where it was AG and we were going to rezone and then decided not to do that. Had that been the case on that parcel being multiple zones, would it have clarified that or?
There was no, that was fully zoned AG and they rezoned it to RS 40. There was never multiple
Well, the
zones.
GIS shows it as RS 40 and says also on parcel AG. And I was just curious about that. Maybe it's just a mistake, but.
I didn't note that on our GIS
No, I'm looking at
system.
a separate, I'm looking at the Guilford County GIS as I was doing some, exploring this week. And I noticed it said there were two zonings and said that's not common, but it does occur from time to time. I was just curious if you could provide some clarity to it.
Yeah, it does occur, but this property in the rezoning case was zoned, in its entirety was zoned RS 40.
Okay.
So if it is on the GIS, and I remember looking at the GIS and I didn't note any separate zoning.
Well, I have it up here right now, but if you could just check that out, I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
but it is RS 40 in its entirety.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that the board accept the conditional approval as stipulated by the Guilford County Technical Review Committee on major subdivision case 21-05-STPL-04404, Coldwater Terrace.
Mark Nadell, second that.
Okay, my big rub with this particular case has been the entrance providing access for over 50 lots and the possibility of even more being added to it at a later date. The town of Stokesdale having no control. Once this is approved, we've had some issues with other subdivisions in the town of Stokesdale in the past with this kind of thing. And that was why I voted for it when it was before us the first time. And that's why I have an issue supporting it tonight. Not that I see any other big problems with it. But with all that said, Mr. Medlin, I've asked this question before, and I'll ask it again just for clarity. I'm a little slow. I'm a layman at this. There's no way for the Stokesdale Planning Board to put a restriction on this property to limit the access to these 56 lots. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Guys, y'all got any other questions, comments?
Yeah, this is Mark Nadell. I have a question also along the lines of Mr. Jones. Now, Boathouse Way, and I'm curious, that says a public right-of-way. I assume that's a street, is that correct? Okay. Okay. So, and I guess going along the same lines that Mr. Jones was talking about, what's the possibility of cutting another entrance in off Coldwater at that point? So you have, because I'm assuming as this development builds, it's going to build in that direction.
You have a lake.
The property, Mr. Nadell, the property immediately to the south is owned by Duke Energy, and a lot of it is floodplain and environmentally sensitive. And Duke Power's property comes way up into this parcel, and there's a very limited area where we can actually cross directly into our property and access the rest of the site. There's no practical way to get in to Boathouse Way without going through Duke Energy property, and there is 100-year flood down there.
So this is gonna be the only entrance or exit?
There's a stub street. Boathouse Way extends to the north property line to the adjoining, I believe it's 59-acre property that the Scales family owns. And Forsyth County required that we stub that street for a possible future connection if and when that developed. But that would have, that property accesses from Plunkett Road off of Route 65, and I think they would require that that be brought through and connect to Boathouse Way if it were developed.
Because going along this, yeah, going along the,
Forsyth County, though, this is.
right, going along the line of, you know, entrance and exit, if something happens at the beginning of this entrance, you effectively have locked out 50-some-odd homes gaining access. And my concern is, in one respect, if we were to have a storm and trees or something were to come down and then an emergency vehicle has to get in, it's got no way getting into this neighborhood. And we're not talking about just a couple of homes. We're talking about a major, setup there. And that's one of my concerns on, because effectively, initially, it's a dead end as you run into it. So how are we assured that we can protect and have a way around that?
I think this is a unique configuration. It's not because we don't have a desire to have a second connection. It's just not practical. If you look at the configuration of the parcel and the point of access, that's it. That's the only way we have out to a public right of way. It's the only point of access. It's very limited.
Yeah, so is it a very forested area there in terms of, I mean, I know there's other emergency type situations that can exist. But is it a forested area in terms of the proximity to the roadway of trees, of large trees?
Future development.
This is all gonna get out.
Comes
Right
right
now.
up.
Because once you open this up,
Probably there's 150
Because
feet
right now,
or so to
you have
cross.
9.
And there's a jurisdictional creek there that we
And
had to get
these
a Army Corps permit and another permit
are for future
in order to
development.
cross, and they're very
Phase 2.
particular about it.
again, they can't put a street.
But there's no way to get a second point of access across that narrow area. Be happy to.
For emergency vehicles.
You have a question for Mr. Bass. Is there any ordinance or any regulations requiring egress to a development for emergency vehicles? In other words,
The amount of
homes or amount of residents
residents.
require, if you have a business, you have to have a certain amount of handicap parking spots. That's the regulations. So is there anything that addresses access to a neighborhood?
Not in, other than what's in your ordinance with regards to 50 lots, there's nothing
Right.
that would mandate multiple access into a subdivision.
Mr. Bass, do you know if Forsyth County has a cap on the number of lots that can have access to Coldwater Road here that's in play?
I do not know that specifically. Of course, they review it. I don't know the status of their review at this time, but they would review it for compliance with their ordinance.
Yeah,
Forsyth
yeah.
County?
Yes.
Yeah, Kim
But
submitted
if,
to that as well.
sir, if you kind of make sure that you're addressing us, just wait to be recognized.
I apologize.
That would board discuss. No, so we're just not going in at one big circle here.
I thought I remembered something about 50 houses requiring 2 entrances and exits.
If it's over 50, our ordinance requires 2 entrances. Is that correct, Mr. Bass?
Leave that to
Yes,
us.
and for subdivisions in Stokesdale, yeah.
Yeah, and this one's got 56, I believe.
Right.
And that was my issue when it was before us the first time that I voted against it, and that was my problem with it. And because of some of the other problems we've had here in town, I could name, ask me later. I just became concerned that one day this entrance would have 75 lots connected to it somehow, up to the north or what have you, and we would be back into a situation where we had a lot of complaints coming to town hall and people asking us why we didn't follow our own ordinance. So that has been my objection with this and remains so. So, any other questions or comments? Mr. Green?
No. Oh, no.
Mr. Angel?
Mr. Bass, the 50 that is per Stokesdale regs,
Yes.
is that unique within Guilford County, or is that similar to some of the other townships?
I think it's unique to Stokesdale.
In the fact that it's only 50, or it's that large?
Well, the county's new UDO, they put it at 30 lots. But I've seen it at 50 lots in other locations, not particularly in Guilford County.
Mm-hmm.
But other jurisdictions did, 50 was a number that was used as a threshold in other ordinances that I've reviewed.
But you're saying newer ordinances are around 30?
Well, then the Guilford County ordinance is now 30.
Okay.
That requires a second entrance, yeah.
Mr. Hummel, did you have any more questions or comments?
Nope, that was it.
And last but not least, Mr. Nadell, do you have any more
No,
questions, comments?
Set, thank you.
All right. Then let's call the question and vote. Mr. Nadell?
I vote nay.
Mr. Hummel?
Nay.
Mr. Green?
I vote nay.
Mr. Angel?
Nay.
And I'm nay as well. That, hate to put anybody in a bind. I don't know what else to do as far as my vote goes. All right. That gets us to announcements.
Wait a minute, let me ask a question. The motion was a motion to accept, and the person who made the motion voted against it.
But aren't we allowed to, once again, as we make a motion, then there's discussion. Cannot that discussion alter the motion to accept?
Yeah, but typically, the person who would make a motion, if they're going to decide to vote against it, would withdraw the motion.
Well, Mr. Medlin, I have witnessed someone making a motion and voting against a motion more than once in this building.
But
You're the
I'm
attorney.
not saying it's illegal or improper. I'm just saying that typically, if you get a motion and a second, those are people who are going to vote in favor. And if they vote against, they would withdraw the motion.
Well, then it would appear then that the discussion on a matter should occur before motions are being asked for.
Yeah, and I support Mr. Angel's contention until we have, to a motion's made and we're able to fully discuss it. Matters come before us that, that's why there are 5 of us and various points are made, questions are asked, and that's the process that we've always used.
So at this point, you've taken no action on the major subdivision plat that's been presented because you voted against the motion. So you either need to have another motion to deny or take some other action or continue it or do something. That's the way I read it.
So it remains a matter before the planning board because we haven't disposed of it yet, basically.
Correct.
And our options are a motion to deny, a motion to continue, and a motion to approve. There's no 4th option.
Unless somebody's creative, no.
Well, in that case, then, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we deny the application for the major subdivision case 21-05 STPL 04404 Coldwater Terrace Phase 1 preliminary plat.
And if you deny, your ordinance requires that you state why.
Because does not meet the requirements of the Stokesdale code regarding the 50 house limitation. It's over that limitation
With one entrance.
with one entrance.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second it.
The lots aren't in Stokesdale.
Motion second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Is there discussion? Mr. Holtz, if you want to come to the podium and have a question, comments, we'll certainly entertain your side.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, I appreciate it. This issue came up at the rezoning, as I recall, and I've also believed Mr. Medlin had an opinion at that time whether or not there was a condition that could be placed on the rezoning for the number of lots that were, 55 of the 56 lots are in Forsyth County, they're not in Stokesdale. And I remember that being an issue there. But given the direction this is suddenly taken into a negative thing, I would ask for a continuance on this so we could better explain why it's impractical to have any more entrances on this property. Is that possible?
Well, the board will discuss it,
Thank you very much.
certainly. Again, folks, I'm willing to stretch out there and look at 56 lots versus 50, taking into account the size of the property over there, the topography, it would be, that's why we're a board to make these adjustments. But again, my issue is if we have a situation where one day that road is serving 70 lots, 75, whatever it may be, and this has been punctuated by some events that have occurred in the past in the town of Stokesdale that are very much on my mind, and that's just where I'm coming from with my single vote.
May I respond to that, Mr. Jones?
Yes, go ahead.
I know I'm pushing. As I was trying to explain before, there is only one stub that continues up to the property to the north. The property to the south and to the west is all Duke Energy and Blues Lake. There is, in its floodplain, I think the prospects of anything being developed other than to the north are nil. And the property to the north is accessed by Plunkett Road, which would need to, I think it would be a very reasonable expectation and requirement if that property were developed, that there would be your second entry going out to Route 65. Plunkett Road extends down into the Scales property, which, and it is pretty well aligned with our Stub Street, so that were that property developed, I cannot imagine that anybody would approve it, certainly not you all, that its only point of access would be through our property. Even though there's a substreet there, I would imagine they'd be required to hook up to it, but they're gonna go out Plunkett Road to Route 65, and there's your second entry. I can show you on a map, I'd be happy to share whatever information I have.
I'm aware of this. I looked at it the first go-round. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So there's property to the north, and that's where I think the board's concern is. I think the real problem here is we're crossing the county line, and Forsyth County's handling part of this, and Guilford County's, we're over here handling the other part in Stokesdale. And, as far as the planning board level, we haven't had any communication with any board in Forsyth County. There's been no way to transmit our concern about the 50 lot rule to anybody over there on the other side of the county line.
if there's only one single entrance and exit to this property, and we get a storm like we had in 2004 that went through my property, which was a tornado, right? And the trees were down on both sides of my house, right? Without my chainsaw, I wasn't getting out. But if the tree landed on top of my house and I couldn't get out of my house, how's anybody gonna get in?
Well, I guess that's one of the factors that was considered when they put, Stokesdale, that 50 lot cap was put in place by whoever wrote our model ordinance. So, why they picked 50 over 45 or 60, I do not know. But,
Can I say something?
Please.
Okay. Of course, I only have one vote, and I could accept 56 lots. But from what I'm seeing, I can't see. I don't have enough information to know how many more could be added somewhere and have to use this entrance. That's my problem. I don't know how many, somebody mentioned 75, I have no idea.
Yeah,
But
I think if you look on the second page there, Mr. Green, you see Boathouse Way going to the north. And based on everything I understand here with the Duke Energy property to the south and a lake to the west, and then the north would be where any additional development might take place now or at some future date. And I think that's where perhaps we need to be concerned. That's where my concern is anyway.
yeah, well, like I say, I could accept 56, but to change my vote, I would need to be able to see or to know, have the possibility of adding all of these lots on, even from another development, because it's way out of hand if we're going to run the possibility of going, well, I don't know, 70, 80, yeah.
Well, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. We have to vote on that motion.
Okay.
And that motion was to deny unless you two, y'all made the motion in the second, unless y'all want to continue to give Mr. Holt some way to grapple with this, come up with an alternative solution, et cetera. My only concern would be that he has application money invested here that I never like to see anybody suffer any harm, if at all possible.
So my question is, page 2, which is preliminary for future, am I correct in assuming that's gonna drop in below this existing section we're talking about now?
Yes, future phase 2 is below.
Here's the break line. If you line this line up with that line, then that is the
On the other side.
Yes, and here is the road to the north where I presume the other development may occur.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah, and so we're just in, if it was all in Stokesdale, our ordinance would be dictating that we not approve this.
This is, it should be, this is overall layout.
Right, exactly, that's what we're just talking about.
Yeah, and so, and you have this one, so that open property's up there. And again, we have a motion, it's been seconded, where we have to, y'all either have to withdraw that motion or modify it, or we have to vote on it.
I don't want to withdraw the motion.
Okay, Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll vote. Mr. Nadell?
Aye.
Mr. Hamel?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Angel?
Aye.
And I am aye also. Okay, that gets us to announcements. Any decision of the planning board may be appealed to the Stokesdale Town Council within 15 days of the planning board decision date by contacting the town clerk with a written notice of appeal. There is a $200 per case filing fee. Number 2, the Stokesdale Town Council meeting will be on Thursday, July the 8th at 7 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. I'll second that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
This is Tom. Is Priscilla, can you hear me?
Priscilla's not here this-
Miss Martin is here, Mr. Medlin.
Oh, Dale, if you can, if you would, under the regulations, when a preliminary plat's denied, the clerk is required to give written notice to the applicant stating the reasons and also putting in writing that they have the right to appeal. It has to be done within 5 days. So just want to make sure that either you or she takes care of that.
We'll do that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we're adjourned.
All right. Good
Thank
night.
you, sir.
Of all people. Surprised. Oh. I'm surprised that. Thank you, sir.